Hi, Malcolm.
Hi, Darren.
I noticed you got the hat on. What's the story behind that?
Oh, well, it's A, very cold, and B, my head has been a bit damaged recently, so it's in a kind of healing mode.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm
Yeah,
pleased to see you.
yeah, you too. Yeah, it's good. It's been a while, but yeah. So what's on your mind? You asked me that question the other day, which was really helpful. What's on your mind at the moment?
Well, I think what's on my mind is the fact if we if we look around, uh, we look at the news, we talk to people, you get a sense of where people are at. And there's a huge amount of concern, one form or another, whether it's the result of the American election or whether it's the presence of at least two wars raging,
Mm.
um, and a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of anxiety. A lot of people saying, I'm not going to look at the news anymore.
Mm.
There's a lot of general unease, the
Mhm.
feeling I got. And people who don't feel relaxed and full of life and joy, they feel more burdened. Now, I don't know, this may be partly my people I bump into, but I just get the feeling that people have lost their way a bit,
Mm.
and they're going through the motions or they're struggling in different ways. A lot of health problems,
Yes.
huge lot of health problems. um, Physical health, and the
Mhm.
idea somehow that physical health and emotional well-being are somehow completely different domains is rubbish, of course.
Mm.
As if we are not feeling confident and well in ourselves, it's very difficult to fight off infections and so on.
Mm.
So, and all the evidence suggests more and more that people's emotional life and traumatic histories and so on have a direct impact on their health, their so-called physical health, as if physical health and mental health or mental well-being are these two domains,
Mhm.
and they're not. They're highly interplay,
Yes. Yes, I
which
know. Go on, sorry.
which takes us straight away into whole intelligence, because with embodying
Mm.
somehow that the idea that somehow bodies and minds are disconnected and that we can just attend to the physical without attending to the feeling levels, the
Mm.
emotions. And because I've been in the hospital having this head looked at and things like that, I mean, I'm aware of the fact that the medical system um, is absolutely determined to keep them apart.
Mm.
Nobody says, "Oh, you're ill. What happened to you in your life?"
Mhm.
And yet that may be highly significant.
Yes. So a much more sort of holistic way of thinking about health.
Yes, and
Mm.
that whole intelligence is actually about adopting a holistic attitude in all sorts of different ways.
Mm.
That's being one of them.
Mhm. But I always think embodying is an interesting one to sort of begin with because you know it I think it can be received in different ways by different people, can't it? You know, in a sense that everybody's got their own perception of what that might mean, and also their own resistance maybe sometimes. I remember one of our colleagues talking about how, you know, him trying to introduce whole intelligence into the workplace that he was working in, and the one element that he found really tricky was embodiment. You know,
Mm.
when you're in such a sort of driven environment and people are looking to hit targets, and then you bring something in a little bit left field, and yet, you know, at the same time, it's actually it's who we are when we show up to work, isn't it? So there's a real paradox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean our bodies and our our life, our physical being,
Mm.
is so much the background from which the various preoccupations and interests of our lives uh, are the foreground. I mean, that's we may be concentrating on high performance activities, whether they're business related or uh, to do with artistic composition or whatever.
Mm.
But we focus on, if you like, our mental life or our our performance in the work context, or and these all are supported or not, backed up by how we are physically,
Mm.
whether we feel energized, whether we feel interested and excited and wanting to approach things and engage with them,
Mm.
or whether we feel turned off, disheartened, or whatever, makes
Mm.
a direct impact on every aspect of our existence.
Mm.
So, I mean, I have a coffee shop next to where I live, and I go in there, and they know me, and oh, hi, Malcolm, whatever. Today, there was a noticeable difference in one of the people who served me, and I didn't feel that I could quite ask her how things were,
Mm.
but I might have been able to, but with other customers around and so on. But I was absolutely convinced somehow that she was down. She was not herself. She was
Mm.
not. Uh, she greeted me, but in a way that felt a bit false.
Mm.
And that's interesting. It's like FALSE, but also without true FORCE,
Yes.
lacking in somehow that kind of yes,
Mm.
that energized sense. And
Mm.
that energized sense, our enthusiasm, our interest, our aliveness is so much part of everything we do, its absence or its presence.
Mm.
And it's not talked about. I mean, Keir Starmer can wheel out any number of policies,
Mm.
but actually that isn't considered in a way, and yet
Mm.
it's crucial. It's
Yes.
absolutely critical to whether a particular system gets well established, whether it attracts good people to it, whether it's functioning in a way that other people appreciate.
Mm.
And it's not a matter of just moving things around in a robotic way. It's to do with our humanity.
Mhm.
It's to do with the fact that people have lives and emotions and feelings and enthusiasms and desires and erotic impulses and all of these. That's the stuff of life.
Mm.
And once we become economic indicators, or we become social problems, or we get labeled, or um, ADHD sufferers, or whatever
Mm.
labels are attached to us, all that is the beginning of dehumanizing us,
Mm.
labeling us,
Mhm.
organizing us into categories, measuring us.
Mhm.
And we forget the pulse of life, the
Mhm.
spirit of life, if you like, the divine essence, the excitement, the energy of wanting to be alive,
Yeah.
wanting to engage in the world. And that's something that I feel strongly that that's at the heart of whole intelligence.
Mm. And so, so how does that, given your example today, how do you then employ whole intelligence? You've noticed something, haven't you? You've noticed
Yes.
something.
Well, one of the things I notice, we have this phrase responding to the situation.
Mm.
This is a very good example. It's not actually a brilliant term because it still maintains somehow that there's two things going on. There's
Mm.
the situation and there's our response to it. And actually, our response to the situation starts with how we see the situation in the first place,
Mm.
how we construe it,
Mm.
so that we're responding to it even at the very moment of recognizing that there is something that we can call the situation. As soon as we do that, we create a barrier. create a polarity between two things which actually are so interlocked.
Mhm.
Because we're made by the situation. Whatever if you go to work, you may arrive in a good place and confident and excited about doing the work and so on. But if you walk into an office where people are terrible weekend, you know, what do you do with that? Do you maintain the separateness of your own way of feeling, or are you subtly influenced by it? And you are actually, as soon as you notice that everyone's and you're feeling, yes, as soon as you notice that, it's actually, you're doing a dance. And the dance is an intimate one where the person entering is being influenced, even if it's triggers in them a kind of counter reaction. Well, I'm going to be even more excited, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But so here, this is about responding to the situation, but it's also, there's a strong element of self-recognizing here and embodiment in the sense like, what is my bodily state today? How do I feel? Why why was it that when I walked into the room and everyone was so down and miserable and talking about American politics or whatever, what happened to me? What did I do? What was my contribution to this?
Mhm.
And realizing that just as I'm influenced by that, they're influenced by me, because we are, all of us, the environment for somebody else.
You know, do you know what it sort of brings up for me is, and I'm thinking about the other elements of whole intelligence as well. You know, how do I then experiment, and how does that affect the relationships I have in that room that you've described? And what it brings up for me is the sort of agency we have
Yep.
as humans. You know, to affect to affect ourselves, to affect situations, just the power we have really
Yep.
to be able to be positive. You don't always have to be positive. Obviously, it's more, I guess, more about being honest and being showing up how we are, really, I guess, but also
Mm.
choosing, how we then
That's right.
respond to those situations. But what I get
Yes.
from you is that almost like we're sense and responding. We've got all these things going on, and the question is whether we choose to hear them or listen to them.
Uh,
Mm,
but choosing comes into it a lot, because that comes into all of them in a way. It's
mm,
whether we choose to look at ourselves and what's going on for us. It's whether we choose to be, how we choose to be with other people,
mm,
realizing that we're impacting them as they are impacting us, and choosing whether we experiment, whether we choose to do something different, to open up a possibility, to be a creative agent, to use the agency words.
So, bringing us back to where you started, about the the sort of sense of um, illness, or how people are feeling at the moment. What do you see whole intelligence bringing to that then? Given that there are these big shifts happening at the moment, we talked about the US politics and things and wars that are going on in the world. So how does that then, how do these big sort of systemic shifts that are happening despite
Yeah.
us almost, how does that then come, how do you bring that back down to us and whole intelligence?
Well, of course, these things, the five dimensions apply at every level. So we're also talking about the fundamental way in which whole groups of people start to demonize other groups of people. And, so that is some of those problems around not realizing how interconnected we are played out at every level. So there's a wrong assumptions,
Mm,
wrong beliefs that, in a sense, are built into our political systems, social systems, and the world understanding as it is at the moment. There
mm,
isn't enough realization that actually, whether it's Trumpian Americans, um, Chinese communist leaders, um, Roman Catholic priests, um, you know, all these groups, that they're all partly governed by their context in which they are.
Mm.
So they're growing and they're acquiring beliefs and whatever, and identifying themselves, first of all, as Republicans or as communists or whatever, all the labels.
Mm-hmm.
But over all of those is the fact that we exist in a world globally
Mm-hmm.
as a species,
Mm-hmm.
which is seriously endangered,
Mm-hmm.
because all the signs are that we are approaching irreversible changes
Mm-hmm.
in climate and in environmental degradation. And there needs to be, for that realization to evolve into concerted global action, there has to be an acknowledgement that we are interconnected and mutually dependent upon each other, and
Mm-hmm.
that everybody's position counts,
Mm-hmm.
every single person, which brings us back into the political realms, because that would be disputed by some, so on. But it's like, until we can get our heads straight about the nature of the world and our human life, we're not going to make any advance, because people fall back on, but they're different from us.
Mm-hmm.
Then they are different, but we're all different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, at another level, at an embodied level, really embodied level, we have the same kinds of health issues. We're born, we grow old, we die, we laugh, we go to the toilet, that we make love. They're all things that are, in a sense, global, bodily, shared existence.
Mm-hmm.
That is who we are. And we happen to be one species, a very greedy and stupid species in a huge biosphere,
Mm-hmm.
which is endangered because of our species. But why aren't people getting it?
Mm-hmm.
They can't get it because they can't get their heads around these simple, elementary principles that we are connected together as a species, that it's irrelevant in cosmic or global terms. It's irrelevant whether we're Roman Catholic priests or Muslim imams, or, these are irrelevant. We're all human beings. We're all part of humanity,
Yeah.
and we're endangered. And people are not getting it. So we can't respond to the situation because they haven't got the fundamental notion of interrelating in their heads.
Yes. So in some ways we're almost stuck as a species. We're sort of stuck with
Yeah.
The routines, the perceptions, the archetypes, the everything that we've sort of grown up with. So how I'm thinking about what your work, right? And I'm thinking about your book and all this sort of stuff. So what would you like to see happen? I mean, what would you love to see happen?
Well, I'd like to see, um, whether it's called that or whether it isn't is irrelevant, but I quite like the principles of whole intelligence to be part of what is taught in every school, that every organization thinks along these lines, that all churches, all the different political systems, all place right at the center of what they're doing some more refined, wiser thinking about the nature that we're all connected, that we're all fundamentally embodied, we're that similar, we're part of the same species, and that we have the capacity. We've all grown up differently because we've had different life histories and different genetic imprints and so on. And we can all look and learn to understand how our particular way of being in the world is a function of how we were brought up and a function of the culture that we're in. I want that to be understood. And then I also want that everybody is an agent. Everybody is capable of making a difference. And that we are creative artists, potentially. We have imagination. We have the courage to risk doing things differently. So the idea that somehow we could change the world, even at this precarious time, when time is running out, we could, but it would require massive changes in the way that people exist. But they won't change in the way they exist unless the assumptions that govern our being, human beings, are altered. And the notion that we can sort of other people, turn them into others, less human than us. Every time we do that, we create division. We create the seeds of war and conflict. And we can't afford war and conflict. We've got to collaborate. We've got a fire on. And you don't stand around arguing who started the fire or which tap shall we turn in which way. You go and get the bloody water. And you fight the fire. And we need to fight the fire of global heating and species despoilation and the abuse of wealth for private gain and preservation of power bases. So we've got a big fight on our hands. It's a fundamental. Well, it's an existential issue, and we are at an existential point. Otherwise, we will go extinct.
Do you know what it's leading me to is where's the kindling for this change? And I'm not sure we've got time to talk about it today, but I'm just thinking this could lead us nicely to where do you see it happening? Where do you see whole intelligence? Where are the opportunities? How is it starting to play out in different places? Because we hear so much about what's not right, and I'm wondering where we can start to look for what is right, what is working.
Yeah, there is a lot that's working. I mean, we are also we're in this critical place, but also there's much more understanding of what needs to be done than ever before. There's huge amounts of research going on in terms of developing new materials, in finding new ways to preserve the environment, to build sustainable agriculture, to find different economic models. I mean, in every sphere, there are people asking questions and groping towards new understandings. And they're all saying that this is all the basis of our getting to be to survive. They're all right in a way, but none is sufficient. We need, and this is a message from whole intelligence thinking, we need all of them, just as we need all 5 dimensions of whole intelligence. It's not good enough just to focus on embodying. To work on embodying, people can be very embodied in terms of their own process of yoga teachers or whatever, but their quality of engagement with other people is absolutely as important. And our capacity to reflect on and learn about ourselves, which some people are very, very hot on, that's fine. But at the same time, we also need to be able to experiment with looking to the future rather than just looking at the past, which is where we come from. So each of them needs the others. So that's I think is the most significant contribution that whole intelligence has. We've got to think in terms of at least 5 dimensions.
Yeah.
Not just 1 dimension at a time or 2 dimensions even.
Oh, it sounds
So
interesting, Matt. Well, I'm just sort of, I don't know, I know we don't have much time, but I really think there's something to explore there. You know, to see
sure.
some examples, see some examples, or explore some
Well, we
examples.
don't have to go far for examples.
Mm,
If you go into A&E, for instance, in a hospital, which I've done quite a lot recently, and see some of the nursing that's going on and the compassion that's being shown to people,
mm,
and that some people and some groups operate very efficiently and effectively, and they treat each other well, and they are not, they're in touch. They're clearly in touch with themselves as whole beings.
mm,
They're not playing a role. They're not just being smiling for because that's what they've been told to do.
mhm.
It's like they're being real and they're being human and being effective. This is whole intelligence.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all around us. It's just that we haven't logged onto it
Mm.
and said, this is important. This is what every education should be about. Building, building these key skills for humanity.
It's a great measure as well, isn't it? It's a sort of measure of, in some ways, I guess, a measure of success. You know, I'm thinking about Wes Streeting, who's got this task to kind of help the NHS to function more effectively and be efficient, although, you know, in what a way. And I wonder how, if you applied whole intelligence to the whole thinking about that strategy, how that might influence decisions and
Yeah,
recommendations and all that sort of stuff.
yes.
Mm.
Well, give him my phone number.
Oh, I wish. Well, maybe we can explore it next time, Malcolm. Maybe we can
All
explore
right.
it next time. But thank you. That was, as always, really interesting and lots more to explore there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks. Thanks for being there and being a key part of this because even though I might do the bulk of the talking, I'm talking to you.
Mm.
And you, if you were different or you were less open or you were just out to ridicule me or undermine me or ignore me because you wanted to get nearer the center or whatever,
Mm.
it would be different between us and
Mm.
that the message coming out would be different.
Yes.
So it is completely co-created this.
Mm. Ah, that's great. Well, I feel the same, Malcolm. I'm going to stop now.